Jeff Orlowski on the ones and twos as we hopefully kick off your Sunday fun day here on The Game. We've got a ton to get to. Some Badger news that broke this week. Obviously, we'll get into the Packers as they make their way ever so close now to training camp as we enter the summer months. Whitewater moving on at the Division III level for the Baseball World Series. So we'll get into that a little bit and what's trending. Obviously, we'll get into some Brewer talk. Pipe Bomb awful happy today walking into the studio with what took place, especially yesterday. Oh, my goodness. Jeff, we talked last week about, we hit Memorial Day. We hit one of those symbolic posts as far as the season goes, and everybody's talking about, oh, my gosh, once we get the pitching back, where we're going to be. And we sat around going, yeah, we're going to need some hitting to go along with it. And it seemed like somebody was listening because yesterday was amazing.
It was the laugher that we were all waiting for. This team, the Brewers, have played so many close, nail-biting, cardiac crew type games that it was nice to sit there and finally, unleash the offense, score 17 runs against a team that, coming in had the best record in the National League. You win the series by taking the first two games and go for back-to-back sweeps today. So, yeah, all is right in Brewer land right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get into some Brewer talk in the second hour. We'll also talk about the NBA because the championship is now set. We'll get into the summer of Giannis because, again, the trades are out there. Everybody's got a trade and what they want to do with Giannis. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. It's ever so ridiculous, but yet almost entertaining. That's only the reason why we end up talking about it. And we'll close shop up as we always do, speaking with our friend on the other side of the glass as he'll enlighten us, as he always does on a Sunday, with the book of Pipe Bomb. But guys, before we get started today, we have a special listener who is listening to our program who celebrated a birthday on Friday. And so we're going to celebrate it today. Akeem. We got to give a shout out to Akeem, who's celebrating his birthday. Now, we know, or at least I've heard, that Akeem loves music, and he loves it when people sing. Not us. We want him to have a great birthday, so we're not going to sing. We'll let Stevie give him a little happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
All right. So as we celebrate our Sunday fun day and celebrate Akeem's birthday, if you hit us on the Nicolay Law Talk and text line and would love your opinions to be integrated into our fine program, you have to say happy birthday to Akeem before we'll even consider.
There are standards today, folks.
Yes. Yeah. And there are very few days on this show we have standards and expectations, but today is one of them. So again, if you want to hit us up on the NicolayLaw.com talk and text line, you got to say happy birthday to Akeem, and then we'll go ahead and take a peek at what your take is on the subject matters that we are about to discuss. And we're going to start today talking about the Wisconsin Badgers because there was a bunch of news, Professor, that I won't say broke this week, but, just came out. And it's nice now to start thinking about not only the Packers heading into training camp, but now we start thinking about, for me, Badger football. We start thinking then about college basketball. I mean, we just get into I know, but then it's so good to be able to look forward and see what's going to happen. So with the schedule now, we're starting to see some of the times being unveiled, revealed, whatever the term is I'm looking for the Badger football season. They're going to open up Thursday, August 28th against the University of Miami of Ohio. That will be at Camp Randall. That's an 8:00 kick. And then on Saturday, September 6th, it's a home game against Middle Tennessee. That will be a 3:00 kick. I should say the Thursday game will be on the Big Ten Network. Then that following Saturday will be on FS1. And then it will be an 11:00 kick against Alabama, whether it's on ESPN, ABC. I think that has some juggling yet with the higher ups within the Disney network to figure out where they want to put it. But we're starting now to get these times. And I've heard some people already like 8:00 on a Thursday. take it. That's essentially prime time. Now, I know old folks like us, by halftime, we're ready for a nap. But again, we're taking a program that we've got some question marks going into next year just because of the schedule. You take whatever primetime game you can get.
It's the start of your long weekend, ladies and gentlemen. You start in Madison, and all day, all night in Madison. You enjoy the game. God knows that's exactly what the students are going to do.
Jeff, doesn't it sound like he's had experience doing this on a Thursday night leading into the weekend?
Treat this like this is Reg Week back when you had to do it walking around campus and trudging along, and you were back in the stockyard and doing all that. Just enjoy it. It's okay, so it's going to be warm. It's going to be sticky. Great. Whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because come November, that last home game, when it's cold and your tuchus is freezing sitting on that metal bench, then you're going to be complaining nonetheless.
And a cold tuchus.
Especially on a Sunday morning. Can't have a cold tuchus on a Sunday morning. But we get those 3 games, as we noted, being unveiled. Maryland, Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota. I mean, again, the task for this Badger team, Dan, is going to be profound. And knowing that we've got a new offensive coordinator, knowing that scheme is going to change a little bit, you got to figure when you go against some of these high-powered offenses historically, like in Oregon, like in Ohio State, having a little bit more of a running attack for ball control is going to be an emphasis throughout this entire season.
Well, yeah, it's for me. We're talking about the new offensive coordinator. Hey, we got another new quarterback again, right? So there's a lot of things going on in the offensive line. The offensive line has to establish that they can move people off the line of scrimmage and make that running game work. But at the same time, I mean, Wisconsin's going to have a chance. There's been chatter about the improvement over the front 7 and how they're going to be a little bit better this year. That's going to be absolutely essential because you need as many 3 and outs as you can get in order for that running game to work.
The big guys up front are going to be a focal point, I think, all season on both sides of the line. To your point, Dan, the 3 and outs are going to be imperative, right? Because you gotta be able to get your offense back on the field. And pipe bomb. Then on the other side of the ball, it's up to the big guys up front. If we are going to kind of evolve back to a running style, they're going to have to do their job up front as well and have a little bit of a dominant performance week in and week out in order for this team to do what it wants with its ground attack in order to kill some clock. And hopefully by the end of the process of killing that clock, you're scoring points as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certain teams that are able to sit there and completely change their philosophy and do it fairly rapidly and fairly successfully. The Badgers were not one of those teams. This whole air raid crap, none of that stuff worked. And so now let's get back to what the true identity has always been.
We can say that now. We can now officially say it didn't work.
Oh, yeah. That was an epic failure. So let's get back to a big, monstrous offensive line. Let's get back to being running back and just, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, baby, with the occasional play action pass.
Yeah.
And, let's get moving here because this offense has been, kind of painful to watch here the last handful of years. They need to figure that out if they expect to compete.
The air raid's time of death was officially marked at 10:09 and 29 seconds by Jeff Orlowski as he signs the paper off with what we saw over the last few seasons. Now we switch over to basketball. I think Badger Nation got some great news this week. I wasn't necessarily surprised by it based on where this particular player sits right now with his development. I might be more surprised next year because we got news this week that John Blackwell will be returning to be on Greg Gard's team coming up for the upcoming 25-26 season as far as basketball goes in Madison. And again, I think one more year of development. This kid is special. I think he's going to be NBA bound when everything is said and done. I think leaving early would have been a mistake. And this is me personally just talking, only because of the fact that what we see now in college basketball with the ability to get paid with NIL and what you see in the G League, they're 2 different entities. So staying one more year, getting developed by the likes of a Greg Gard, getting all of the amenities that you get with college basketball, I think is a smart move on his side of things. And I think next year we might be having this discussion on a Sunday morning talking about John Blackwell entering the NBA draft. But I was thrilled to see he's coming back, because I think one more year with Blackwell in the midst of the few that are coming in with the transfer portal, some of the young guys that are evolving here in the way this team, and any team now in college basketball, has to kind of pivot on the fly, so to speak, and bringing in people with the transfer portal. Having that anchor there, I think, is going to be crazy important.
The anchor, yeah, that's a great way to put it, because you just don't know who's going to be sticking around from year to year. And so it's another way that Badger Nation is going to be connected to John Blackwell for one more year, and that appreciation of that. It's one of the ways that NCAA basketball has a right to allow these athletes to go out and measure what they could get that feedback from an NBA program. This is where we anticipate you're going to get drafted, and this is what you consider. And what that also means for John Blackwell too is not only can he develop in different ways, he knows what the NBA is going to be looking for, but also let's be candid. He's going to make a little bit more money this year than he would next year.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this coming year, if he was going to be in the NBA draft.
The thing, though, however, between somebody, as far as I can see, where John Blackwell stands right now, if he were to go into the draft pipe bomb, I think he'd be more of that two-way G League bounce back and forth in whatever team he plays for. But the money now that college athletes are garnering are allowing them to make, I think, an easier decision as far as their development goes, and then what will propel them to be a higher draft pick once it's time for them to enter the NBA draft. So as the professor said, all of a sudden now that contract becomes much bigger, and rightfully so, because they've developed their skill sets and are much more sound moving forward.
Yeah, this is a very wise decision from Blackwell here, because we all know that if you're in the G League, you're making less than the fry guy at McDonald's. I'm sure the amenities are a little bit better. You probably eat a little bit better than nothing but Big Macs, but I'm sure it's close. And so good for him. He does need another year of development, and I think it's great that he's able to recognize where he was and where he is now, and that he owes a lot of that credit to Greg Gard and the staff there at Wisconsin. So you might as well stay here and continue under that tutelage and hopefully make the next jump. I think he will. I think, within just a handful of games here, we'll stop calling him Blackwell, because we might be calling him Black Awesome, because Blackwell just doesn't seem to cut the mustard.
Listen to him on a Sunday, coming up with nicknames already. Nice job, Pipe Bomb. There you go. Dan, it almost feels like not only is it great news, as I was saying before, for Badger fans, but for Greg Gard as well, because you got to feel as if Greg Gard is hoping that John Blackwell will now fill a bit of the void left by John Tanji, right? Another year, not only of what you can give the Badger program on the floor, but it's another year of watching these guys get more mature, watching these guys get better affiliated with the system. And again, with the way college sports is right now, with all of the transitioning that takes place because of the transfer portal, I'll go back to the word you said that I properly use, the anchor portion of it is crazy important. And I think that's what Blackwell now has to do, is fill the shoes of a John Tanji, maybe not to the same extent of however Tanji carried himself in the locker room or what he has as far as his skill set was on the floor, but those similarities, I think, have to play out going into next year.
Yeah, I think so. And with John Blackwell, last year, he was outspoken about wanting to be a leader on the team after his freshman year going into his sophomore campaign. He was outspoken and said that I'm going to be the leader. I'm going to be, he wanted to hold that role. Well, he's definitely going to have it now in his junior year. He's going to have that opportunity. There's a lot of national love previous, over the last couple of months being given to Wisconsin based on what they've done in the portal. So, what Wisconsin's going to be expected, I think, to be a player in the top 20 that I think a lot of sports writers and pundits will be out there anticipating that Wisconsin will be one of the better teams in the nation this year. And we'll see how that all works out. They should have a deep bench again.
Mm-hmm.
But now Blackwell will hold the role of the playmaker. He's going to be the guy. And I am looking forward to seeing what he can do in that role, because there aren't going to be any secrets anymore about Blackwell. They're going to be game planned for him. The people are going to be expecting that. So let's see what the other incoming Badgers can do, as well as who they already have, and kind of supportive roles, and see what Wisconsin can do with this.
It just, on paper again, moving into next season, whether it's Wisconsin, Marquette, UWM, it looks to be a really exciting season again for college basketball in our state. And we haven't even talked about the Division III stuff, where we've got some perennial powerhouses that exist within the confines of our beloved borders. But just looking again forward and seeing what these rosters are lining up to be, I just feel like, again, college basketball is going to be exciting. Listen, we all want tournament wins. We all would love to see a championship, but you can't argue what Marquette, Wisconsin, and UWM gave us last year as far as college basketball goes, as far as being a fan of the sport. It was a great year last year, and it doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon.
No, we always judge what teams are based on what they do in March, right? That's just this human nature, and everybody's looking for that championship. Wisconsin wasn't on that level to get to a championship. They probably should have gotten to the Sweet 16. They didn't. But yeah, if you look at the success that these programs have had throughout the season, the regular season, then yeah, they're fun teams to watch. I actually think Wisconsin's probably there's going to be more expected out of Wisconsin this year than will be out of Marquette.
Yeah, I tend to agree, because I think there's some question marks with Marquette because they're going to be young, right?
Mm-hmm.
We lost some key pieces from the team, but Shaka Smart has done a magnificent job of developing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you wait and see how these guys move from one year to the next. One more thing regarding the Wisconsin Badgers. We had some inductees announced for the upcoming Badger Hall of Fame, the UW Athletic Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame, he says 5 times fast for the 2025 class. And somebody we announced back when we were doing the college sports show, because Chris McIntosh announced it at halftime of a home game at the Kohl Center. And Pipe Bomb, that's Matt LePay heading into the Hall of Fame. And if there is ever anyone more deserving outside of the athletes themselves, all right, you always got to give credit to the athletes who go above and beyond. But if there's anybody who has been associated with that program, who is not, air quote, an athlete who came from that program, who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, nobody better than Matt LePay.
Yeah, and if you want to get into a tough discussion, try to figure out if he's better at basketball or football.
That's a good point.
Because you're just sitting there going to war with yourself there, So obviously he deserves it. He's got the angelic voice and the way he describes everything, and he gets excited at the right moments and all that. His calls are great. He's an absolute legend. But he's really, honestly, a cooler dude off the air. Like, he is the nicest guy in the world, man. I get to talk to him when he's calling in on daily shows and stuff like that. It's only a couple minutes here and there, but he is so nice. And, I just tip my cap to him. He's at the top of his game. The guy is an absolute legend. I love listening to him.
Absolutely.
And, the fact that he's legit. Behind the scenes as well, just seals the deal. He's A++ in my book.
And I think, Dan, the things many people, maybe I'm wrong, but many people don't understand is the work that goes into prepping for a basketball or especially a football game. And when somebody like Matt LePay gets behind the mic and it sounds effortless and it just sounds fluid, and it's like, Matt gives you the opinion that he just shows up, puts the headphones on, and it just goes. But you don't get or understand maybe the legwork of the prep that goes into being ready to come across that way. Anybody who is unbelievably talented at what they do, they make it effortless. And that, to me, is always something that Matt LePay has been able to do, whether, again, he's basketball or football. That was great. Arguing which one he's better at. But
awesome.
he makes it effortless, but it's because of all of the prep that he puts into each and every contest that he calls.
Oh my goodness. If you look at the guys that are great, and we've got so many guys that are great right now, starting with Matt LePay, looking at a guy like Brian Anderson, looking at a guy like Wayne Larrivee, who you obviously know, that prep work is so misunderstood. Don, we have certain undergraduates who think they can just throw on the mic, put on the headset, put on the cans, and think, well, I'm just going to talk sports. It'll be cool. Like, no, man, you have no idea how much work they have to put in prior to that. And then all of a sudden, well, I don't think it's fun anymore. Right. But what these guys have done, and honoring Matt LePay, like you said, Pipe Bomb, is it going to be football or is it going to be basketball? Knowing those programs inside and out and be able to speak, intelligently on that, crescendo at the right times, being able to talk candidly when things aren't going well. And I hate to say this, I'm going to hate it when he's gone.
Yeah.
I
don't want Matt, stay forever. You're already
absolutely. And
don't go anywhere.
Not only with the play-by-play, he's got to be a Duolingo translator to speak Butchanese and be able to translate that into normal people English. Right. That's a big job in and of itself. So, that's even more kudos going LePay's way there.
Butchanese. That's a soundbite if there ever was one. You put that with Hunter shaking his head like the Magic 8-Ball. We might have something going there. So congratulations again to Matt LePay, James White, Frank Kaminsky. There's a number of others that obviously you can go online and see, because all of them very talented in what they do and rightfully deserving the honor of entering the UW Athletic Hall of Fame, the class of 2025. Don't forget, we'll get some names when we come back. If you are hitting us up on the NicoletLaw.com talk and text line and you want your opinion heard, or you just want to say happy birthday to Akeem, that's how you got to start your text.
Happy birthday, Akeem.
And we will read that as we come back after the break. When we come back after the break, let's talk some Packers. Again, the storyline starting to evolve as we make our way into the summer, and we'll get to those next. It's a Wisconsin Sports Sunday right here on The Game.
Football season is still a couple of months away, but it's never too early to start thinking pigskin. Join us Sunday at noon as we kick off another summer of Packers Pride, the most important games in the history of pro football's most storied franchise. This week, we go back to when the bar was first raised.
Now he's going to the end zone. There's a man. He's wide open. Touchdown. It is caught by the Pineapple, and it is Kitley Taylor.
The birth of the Gunslingers, Sunday at noon on your home for Packers football, 97.3 The Game.
The city.
Las Vegas.
Vegas, make some noise!
The event.
Our legendary iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Presented by Capital One.
Live. Welcome. One stage.
2 nights. The biggest stars in music return this September.
To make history.
The world's biggest artists are taking this stage.
Stream live only on Hulu.
I said, woo!
Listen right here as the star-studded lineup is revealed.
Tuesday morning.
At 7.
They say seeing is believing. And when you check out what's waiting for you at American Place Casino, you'll definitely believe you'll love it. From thrilling gaming to top-notch service, we're changing the game. Come play all your favorites like blackjack, craps, roulette, and the latest slots. Catch a game at the sportsbook, enjoy great restaurants, bars, and more. If you're ready for excitement, exceptional service, and an experience you'll never forget, then we'll see you soon. American Place Casino. Change the game. Must be 21 years of age or older. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with a new way to enjoy our beautiful planet. Reduce your impact on the environment this fall by packing a waste-free lunch for school or work. Avoid foods with excessive packaging. Use reusable cutlery, napkins, cups, bags, and containers, and recycle or compost any waste when possible. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Divergent Family Law will work with both parties of a divorce to an agreed-upon final assignment of assets and custody. Prefer or have no choice but fight for every and any advantage through divorce? Divergent's attorneys do that too. Divergent Family Law, separate and equal, or better. DivergentFamilyLaw.com.
At Hazelden Betty Ford, treating mental health isn't just about breaking old patterns. It's about braving new ones. As the leader in alcohol and drug treatment for 75 years, we know caring for addiction, anxiety, depression, and trauma goes hand in hand. We're here for you with new tools when life breaks down. Discover your path to better mental health at hazeldenbettyford.org/Wisconsin. Sponsored by Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Nia.
Hi, Nia. It's Jennifer. Did you know that Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, I work here.
Okay. I was just double checking. Get it?
Because Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, you get me, Nia.
You could say that I double get you.
I guess we've taken it too far.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
The Fox 6 weather experts are presented by AdventKnows.com.
Skies will be sunny today with wildfire smoke visible in the sky. Temperatures will warm to the 70s in the inland areas and 60s lakeside. Warmer temperatures in the 80s to start the week off. Then rain returns with cooler temperatures following. I'm Fox 6 meteorologist Holly Baker.
This report is sponsored by Rapid Radios.
Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. Business owners can now keep in touch with up to 200 staff members at one time. Go to rapidradios.com now for up to 60% off and free shipping.
Buku ducks, but I still rock Nike with the razzle dazzle. Star I might be. Scribble, jabble, scrabble on the microphone. I babble as I fix the words into a puzzle. Yes, yes, yes. On and on as I flex. Get with the flow. Birds manifest. Feel the vibe from here to Asia. Dip trip. Flip Fantasia.
All right, welcome back in on a Wisconsin Sports Sunday here on The Game. Thanks to everybody who's hitting us up on the NicoletLaw.com talk and text line and wishing Akeem a happy birthday. We've got Paul in Caledonia, Ken in McGuanago, simply saying happy birthday to Akeem. Then we've got some others who've added some takes to their happy birthdays. He says 5 times fast again. Jessman says happy birthday to Akeem, but we are spoiled in Wisconsin with our team's announcers. Our bench is deep. I love that.
That's a
Our
great way to
bench
put it.
is deep with
absolutely.
LePay and Wayne and
Great
Rock.
point.
Isn't that? When you look across the gamut, or if anybody has been traveling and you get outside of, the immediate area and you switch over to, let's say, Sirius XM and you're listening to some other play-by-plays, if you get that ability, then you'll really understand how blessed we are, because I listen to some of these play-by-plays and I'm like, oh my gosh, give me Matt LePay calling whatever South Carolina games or whatever it could be once I enter that particular area to pick things up, because what others get and think is good isn't nowhere near. I'm sorry, isn't nowhere near, as Jessman just said, how deep our bench is.
Yeah, you're 100% right on that. I was driving home last night or the night. Well, no, it wasn't last night. So it was either the night before or whatever. And I was listening to a new national sports radio show. And they were playing highlights and stuff. I don't remember if it was like an update or whatever, but they played a highlight of one of the Brewers' home runs, and they credited it to the Brewers radio network. Well, it sure as hell wasn't the Brewers radio network, because the call was so ungodly boring and just lame.
Yeah.
It's like, get the accreditation right, because you're dragging our guys down, because whatever they played sucked.
He's so eloquent on a Sunday morning, isn't he? Also, we got Simba in Port who shined some love our way. We thank you, Simba. Also wishing Akeem a happy birthday. And then we get somebody from South Carolina who texted us. All right, there we go. And again, another happy birthday for Akeem. But then talking about the NBA championship that will be coming up, and just grateful in his words that we don't have to listen to Stephen A. fawning over himself if the Knicks had made it. So thank you to everybody who has definitely hit us up again on the NicoletLaw.com talk and text line. And since we're talking about national shows, I got a game for you guys. All right. Make sure you're at home, because I don't want anybody driving while you play this.
Okay.
Turn on Cowherd. And anytime he says, I've said, it's kind of like the Hey Bob that our elders did back in the 70s when the Bob Newhart show. Anytime Cowherd says, I've said, I said something within that realm, okay? Take a drink. And I challenge you to make it to 3 hours of his show when he says, I said, I've said, and take a drink. You're not going to make it. I'm just throwing that out there in case you need a little help falling asleep tonight. There you go. Let's get into some Packer talk here because that's what we were intending to do.
You are required.
We are required by law, by Wisconsin state law. It says you must have a segment about the Green Bay Packers.
You have to say the words Green Bay Packers and eat some cheese curds.
But the idea that we're getting towards training camp, which then, the summer camp, which then leads towards training camp again, much like I was talking about with college sports, you start to, and then Brewer baseball is going. I mean, it becomes a really good time, and maybe we'll experience warm weather in southeastern Wisconsin and the state of Wisconsin at some point. But with all of that said, we're getting more and more now, and something we talked about a couple of weeks ago. See, I threw in a cow herd there. The idea that that went over like a lead balloon.
Lost consciousness for a minute.
The idea that Jaire Alexander looks to be returning to the Green Bay Packers in some form of a restructured contract, I think is good news to some degree, because I think if he can stay healthy under a restructured format, that's a good thing. The key will be availability, which has been, I think, his Achilles heel for much of the last 2 years. But trying to keep a Jaire Alexander, trying to make sure that defense is shored up is going to be important again, like we were talking about the defensive and offensive lines for the Badgers. There are some spots within this Green Bay Packer team that are going to need some anchors. And I think Jaire Alexander is one of them in the defensive back.
Well, you say health, and I completely agree with that, but I'm also going to say health and focus. Jaire's got to be bought into the Green Bay Packers and what they want him to do. And everybody's right. When he's on the field, and I will add, when he is focused, he is an incredible asset to that defense. He's one of the best defensive backs in the league. And we are in right now a conference with other ascending quarterbacks, we assume, right? That with improving wide receivers, particularly in Detroit, we see what they have. We know what they have in Minnesota. You need those guys. You need those cover guys that can just shut a receiver down.
Absolutely.
And when Jaire Alexander is healthy and focused, that's exactly what he can do. You have a better chance of winning the football game then. So if we can find a way where he can come in and he can be happy and engaged with the team and healthy, then yeah, let's do this.
And the idea of, again, him at the cover spot is fantastic. But as we were talking a couple of weeks ago, the idea that, Jeff, the NFL has now moved to more of a running game, it's going to be something that we'll have to keep an eye on, because you're going to need now your cornerbacks to come up and hit somebody and not just dive at their ankles. And heaven knows, if it were me, I wouldn't even dive at their ankles. I'd be running off the field and jumping into the first row. I wouldn't want to take on these behemoths that come out of the backfield these days that have power and speed. But that's where the game is shifting towards a little bit. So you're going to have to be able to not only cover, but come up and hit, which then raises the question mark about Jaire's ability to stay healthy.
Yeah, I would be careful. I don't think the game is shifting more towards a running direction. It might just be a little momentary swerve that way. When you've got a special guy like Saquon and stuff like that, obviously you're going to run the living hell out of him. Derrick Henry the same way, and with the Packers, Josh Jacobs as well. So, now that you've got, it seems like, more difference-making running backs that can carry the ball all three downs. That's why I think it's kind of shifting a little bit that way, or swerving. I'm sorry. But, as a dramatic shift, I don't see it because, yes, it's a cyclical, thing where the running game is important. And then, pretty soon it's not important and it's all passing. It all goes in a cycle. I think that a lot of these offensive coordinators and head coaches are so pass happy now that it's going to take an extended period of time for there to be a dramatic shift away from the passing game, because it can be so successful. But if college football isn't putting out successful quarterbacks here. And you saw the sacks and, all the turnovers that these young quarterbacks are putting out there. Part of the reason because they don't stay in one place and learn the right way. They're bouncing team to team to team after every year. It might have to go back to running because the players that they get out of college aren't smart enough or developed enough yet because they're so busy chasing the bag in college that they're not thinking long-term about their NFL
Just
future.
let him go.
I was just going to say, if these things weren't so expensive, just drop the mic and walk out right now. That was beautiful. Because the points you just made, Jeff, are so on point because you're almost now, to what you had said, forced to run the football, Dan, because the quarterbacks aren't developed to a point where they can be plug and play. Right. So now you got to run the balls so these guys can now develop. And much of that is then a byproduct of the transfer portal and NIL because the guys are chasing the money as opposed to two different sports. I get it. But as opposed to, let's say, a John Blackwell, who not only is returning to college, but returning to the same team and not just jumping ship and going someplace else. There is something to be said about staying with a program and being developed and enhancing your skill set so that when you get to the next level, we're up and running.
Well, and then there's the environment that these quarterbacks in the NFL are coming into as well. When they're young, you're walking into a place where all of your coaches are, moment of the show are absolutely averse to turnovers. They're not going to want to take those risks. So if, like you were saying, Pipe Bomb, when you have a quarterback come in and they're making these mistakes, then you're going to go the safer route, which is to hand the ball off and hope those things happen, which kind of goes to what the Green Bay Packers have done for the past two quarterbacks. Develop your guy, make sure they know the offense, get him in there, and don't run the risk of burning somebody out in that first contract, which later on they might end up being well, but right now they're just not good and they're costing your team wins.
Well, and not only then, Jeff, are they costing you wins, to Dan's point. Think about the quarterbacks who, in your mind, could develop into something special, but because they've been beaten up so much in years 1 and 2, they're hearing footsteps. Their skill sets have been diminished because they're injured, they're banged up. The mental portion of the game just isn't there. And I think there's some concerns about our team to the south in the Chicago Bears, understanding, yes, they got a new coach in Ben Johnson. Everybody's excited. He's as creative gets offensively. But what was the toll last year that Caleb went through in order to get to this year? Has that done anything to him physically and mentally that's going to put the ceiling lower than what it should be?
Yeah, it would have had to take some kind of toll on him because he got sacked 800 billion times last year.
It was like the McDonald's thing where it says billions and billions. It just kept changing every week when he was behind the center.
It was great. He took an absolute beating. I loved every hit he took. Half of them were his fault and half of them were on the coaching staff. And whether it's on the coaching staff or the front office, it's, neither here nor there because the offensive line was pretty damn bad down in Chicago there. So thank you for that. Hopefully it stays that way. But yeah, like you said, pretty soon he's going to be 25 going on 33 as far as age and body wear if he keeps taking those kind of hits. Now you sit there, you team him up with Johnson as the coach, and Johnson kind of has a reputation of somebody who's not scared to put his foot in your what.
Yes, sir.
And then you've got a fingernail painting quarterback that sits there, and I don't know if he's ready to take that kind of coaching. But ready or not, here it comes. Let's hope it's all a disaster. I just can't wait to watch the downfall of Caleb Williams. And, yet again, the Bears win the offseason. Well, how's that worked out for you the last 40 years? Because you guys still suck.
Well,
I think the word you were looking for earlier was tookus.
Yes.
Today's show being brought to you by Tookus. When you need a place to sit, find your Tookus. The idea, though, Dan, to, again, Jeff's point, you've got a quarterback, we'll say, like Caleb Williams, since we were just talking about him a little bit. You get some of these athletes who've had success all throughout their life, since we're talking about football, Pee-wee football through college, now into the pros. I mean, you made it to the pros. That's a success in and of itself, but you've never really had adversity. And the little bit of adversity a Caleb Williams has seen, or some other quarterbacks that you could historically look back, when they hit adversity, they don't know how to deal with it, how to overcome it, how to work through it, because they've really never had to. And again, that mental element is just as important as having all of the physical attributes that you need to play a certain position.
Yeah, and I think, some of them may have had adversity, but the problem is they've been protected as well. They've been protected. Yes. Their teams, quote unquote, of people that are out there looking out for this quarterback or whatever it is, are looking at him. And when there's a bad game, well, it's, the defense, like, for example, if you want to look at Caleb Williams, all the questions about USC's defense while he was there, and just kind of that protection. But now they get into the brightest of bright lights, and in this case, you're one of the top 3 markets, and suddenly the accountability just skyrockets, and the expectations skyrocket. And are you prepared for suddenly you've got an entire market looking and going, but no, what you did sucked. It didn't work.
The idea that you've come out of USC, you've had expectations before, right? But it's different. It's different because even though now college athletes are getting paid, there are still those who go, he's in college. He's going to make mistakes. Well, I'm saying more when he was playing, right, the forgiveness level was there. Yeah, you're right. I get where you're going now. That once you get to the pros, there is no forgiveness. There is no looking away. There is no, you need to figure it out and do it quickly. Otherwise, we move on.
Right. That's exactly what it is. And so, going back to what, there again, I'm sure Jordan Love has learned in the past 2 years that threshold for error has become razor thin, particularly in the eyes of the public market, right? And putting that on there. Well, Jordan Love had the advantage a little bit of just walking in and not being expected to be a first-round draft pick on that day. With Caleb Williams, it's completely different. You're going to come in, and no doubt he is a physical specimen. He can do so many different things with the football, but now there's so much less of forgiveness. And in fairness, he's dealing with a team that has not been able to handle a quarterback for decades.
Oh yeah.
He's a bit of that shining sun that Chicago is a bit desperate for, and we'll see what.
Well, the thing with the no forgiveness is that eventually it's going to come due, and it's going to come due for
the bill
everybody.
Comes due, right?
Whether it's Caleb Williams and it's your first game of your rookie season, or whether it's Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers, where it came 4 or 5 years later after you were drafted, able to mature, able to sit there and master the playbook, and you're 100% in the best position to be successful. Which do you want? And I understand these GMs drafting these quarterbacks and wanting them to play right away because they're working for their job too.
Absolutely.
Where if I sit there and draft Underberg, the 1-1
idiot
unanimous quarterback overall out of college, and I don't play him right away, well, now my Tookus is on the hot seat.
Nice. Way to work that in, Pipe Bob. Well done.
Word of the day.
One other storyline we'll talk about as the summer moves forward, and that's Jordan Morgan vying for the left tackle spot, given an opportunity to compete against Rasheed Walker in the upcoming summer workouts and training camp, obviously making our way into the exhibition season. So that'll be a storyline. Again, we'll cover as time moves on here with the Green Bay Packers moving forward. Music in the background says we got to get to a break. On the other side of the break, we'll hit what's trending, and we'll do it next. It's Wisconsin Sports Sunday here on The Game.
Bring some understanding here today.
Watch PGA Tour champions, including tournament host Steve Stricker, at the American Family Insurance Championship. The tournament moves to its new home at TPC Wisconsin, Friday, June 6th through Sunday, June 8th, and features a new team competition. All proceeds support the Steve Stricker American Family Insurance Foundation and the American Family Children's Hospital. Get your tickets today at amfamchampionship.com. That's amfamchampionship.com.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with a new way to enjoy our beautiful planet. Reduce your impact on the environment this fall by packing a waste-free lunch for school or work. Avoid foods with excessive packaging. Use reusable cutlery, napkins, cups, bags, and containers, and recycle or compost any waste when possible. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Race fans, the world of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars are coming to the Plymouth Dirt Track and Beaver Dam Raceway for its grand finale. First, the Outlaws return to Plymouth on Friday, June 6th for the first time in 20 years. Then, Saturday, June 7th, the greatest show on dirt battles Wisconsin's heroes in the Jim J.B. Boyd Memorial, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Gates open at 4 p.m. Tickets at slspromotions.com. Be there.
Are you determined to look beyond pills and steroids and surgery to feel your absolute best? I'm talking to the person who's living in pain right now, or maybe it's somebody that you love. You've done everything they told you to do. The pain just continually comes back. You're exhausted, but don't give up. Hey, it's Bill Schmid for QC Kinetics. They are different. These are not quick fixes. This is a revolutionary treatment that works to give your body long-term relief. You'll meet face-to-face with medical director Dr. Ashley Caravelli and her team. They'll explain how regenerative treatments take your body's own healing power and helps restore and repair damaged tissue. These are well-respected protocols that include potent and powerful cellular level treatments. No more masking the pain. They're going right at the very source of it so you can finally say goodbye to that chronic pain you've been living with. Find out if you're a good candidate. The consultation is absolutely free, and appointments are now available on Saturdays. Just call QC Kinetics at 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474. QC Kinetics, 414-285-3474.
Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Save $100 on the Craftsman V20 6-Tool Power Tool Combo Kit, now at $199. No matter what the project is, Craftsman's high-quality, high-performance products empower you to build on. Stop by your nearest Lowe's store and check out the full line of Craftsman tools today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
For a lot of us, saving up a down payment can be the biggest barrier to buying a home. So Rocket Mortgage is lowering down payments to 1% for eligible home buyers with ONE+. Because everyone deserves their shot at the American dream. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to get a head start on your starter home.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
My car's making this noise. Sometimes it's like doot doot, and sometimes it's like.
Do you have a dash light on?
Oh yeah.
Then we don't have to listen for clues. With the free Fix Finder service, we can read a check engine, ABS, or maintenance light to find the likely fix and even recommend a local shop if you need one.
So you don't need to hear the.
Not with Fix Finder. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Grab your shades, your flip-flops, and your free iHeartRadio app for the start of summer 2025. No matter where you go this summer, your favorite radio station, the music you love, and the best podcasts in the world will be along for the adventure. Make sure you have the free iHeartRadio app in your phone today.
Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. A great alternative to a mobile phone for your kids. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com and you'll get 60% off. Free UPS shipping. Add code radio and get an extra 5% off.
They're talking about me. Come on, push in with Trending. They're talking about me. They're talking about me. They're talking about me. Come again.
Welcome back in. It's Wisconsin Sports Sunday here on the Game. Radio shows interrupted our conversation over here. All of a sudden, it was like, oh my God, we got to get back on the air.
Really, really important stuff.
Oh, important stuff as well. All right, let's get into what's trending right now. Something we really haven't given due diligence to, and that's Division III college baseball in our state. We had 3 teams make the tournament in La Crosse, Whitewater, and Oshkosh. Once again, we ended up in one of those scenarios where Whitewater and Oshkosh had to battle one another to make it into the bracket, so to speak. And as we sit in the middle of the Division III baseball championship right now, Whitewater has advanced. So they're going to take the field around 12:15 today. It is not an elimination game. So if you know how college baseball goes about their business, or women's softball for that matter, it's always a double elimination. So if Whitewater were to win, they will advance to a game tomorrow, which will get going at 1:15 again. That seems to be prime starting points for these playoff games. If they lose, then they'll have an elimination game tonight, and that'll be 7 p.m. our time. So let's hope Whitewater can advance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, we highlight Division III in our college sports show, and we talk about football, we talk about basketball, now we throw baseball and other sports in the mix. You got something special going on here in this state with regards to Division III athletics, whether we're talking about what I'll call the three majors, or you throw track and field. And I mean, it's just a very successful incubator, so to speak, for college athletics within the confines of our great state.
Yeah. And, you know, what Whitewater does particularly, they're always kind of at the forefront of these types of conversations for championships, whether it's going to be football, men's or women's basketball, volleyball. You hear about track and field, you hear about all these things. And this time it's baseball, right? And it's an amazing part of what they do, an amazing part of the culture at UW Whitewater, because people are engaged in these things.
Right.
You know, we talk about football a lot on the other show, and that's fair. But you know that people are watching the Warhawks play baseball right now because, you know, again, look, let me put it to you this way, guys. Anybody shocked to hear that Whitewater's playing in a championship?
No, yeah, you're right.
Nope.
You're right.
That's what they do, and credit to them for being able to integrate the idea of athletics and academics and doing it well.
And when you think about the WIAC, what's kind of beautiful about the whole thing is Whitewater's success bleeds into the Oshkoshes, the La Crosses, the Stouts, because not only then does it force them to recruit at a higher level, it also forces those universities to step up facility-wise. And if you go to some of these Division III campuses and see their facilities, they're not to the extent, obviously, of what you'll find in Madison or over at Marquette or at UWM, but they're kind of smaller versions of it, right? Because you the number of athletes you have, the number of students that you have isn't to that extent, but the facilities themselves are still state-of-the-art and wonderful for those who are participating.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going to go with that, is like they may be smaller, but they're still state-of-the-art. They're still excellent facilities where, you know, student athletes and students themselves can train and just be active and fit. But when you look at what WIAC is doing right now, it's that culture of championships that carries forward from football, carries forward from basketball and the other sports. But those are the two that kind of push the temperature up a little bit, and the expectations that are held within that conference. So, you know, it's like you said, they're always comparing themselves against each other, always trying to figure out, because they know a lot of the times they're going after the same athletes. So these athletes are going to walk in, and like any athlete, they're going to measure what the universities have to offer them, both from an athletic standpoint, academic standpoint. And I think there's so much parity in the WIAC right now, and that helps these programs get better.
Pipe Bomb, are you sitting on your tuchus?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I got one for you. Here we go. Charlie Baker, president of the NCAA, this week announced that the goal is to expand the NCAA basketball tournament to 72, if not 76 teams, with a play-in style similar to what they already do, but at a larger level. And they hope to do it by next year.
Okay, Charlie Baker, you said, right?
That's our president. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Chuck, you suck.
Chuck.
This is such a terrible, terrible idea. You know, obviously everybody could see this coming. When something's great, why don't we just sit there and see how we can squeeze even more money out of this cash cow and mess everything up? The first four is ridiculous and stupid, and no one pays attention to any of those stupid games in Dayton. You know, half those athletes, you know, families aren't even watching because everybody knows it's a joke. Now, I'm one of those weird people. I do enjoy the NIT. I think that's a great tournament, you know, and stuff like that. I love college basketball. but you don't mess with the NCAA tournament. You know, what are you trying to do? Because if you sit there and you throw in 72 teams, Team 73 is going to bitch. If you throw in 120 teams,
right.
Team 121 is going to bitch. So you can never get away from that. So why are we trying to please everybody? Bring it back to 64 where everything was perfect and all was right with the world. The coverage on it is great where it's across 4 networks. You get full games of every single game. You can watch beginning to end. I absolutely love that. Everybody figures out where True TV is again.
Once a year. Yep.
Yeah, once a year. And so that's great. But yeah, just leave it alone. It's getting ridiculous.
Yeah, when I saw this news, the first thing that really struck my mind is that, there was a couple years ago, the idea was getting to 90, right? And they're going to get a 92 or something like that. And it really kind of, so this is your strategy. We're going to go to 72 and then we're going to go to 76. And while we're at it, why don't we look at 80 and whatever that breakdown. Somehow they're going to get to that magic number of 90 or whatever it was. And there's so much pushback. They thought, okay, well, let's just start at the smaller number and we'll just ease you into this idea of where we want to go. I can't, I hate this. I hate it. I hate it as much as you do. Yeah. Stick with 64. It works. The bigger you make it, the less special it becomes.
Well,
yes, sir.
And not only does the tournament then become less special, but how many times has the three of us been talking about the relevance of the regular season?
Right.
And the fact that you've got networks out there who are starting to examine their numbers as to how many people are putting eyes on the product. And they're dwindling slightly, not terribly, but slightly in certain markets, because of the fact that who cares in essence, unless you're a fan of a particular school. Like we're locked in watching Marquette, Wisconsin, and UWM because we're fans. So we're locked in. But it's always about getting the average fan. Why was Indy so good last week? Because Fox threw it out there and continues to throw it out there, and the average fan then gets lured in and the numbers skyrocket. When you start going to, which I agree, Dan, I think they're going to try and get to 90 before we know it, just like the NFL wants to get to 18. Nobody wants to say it right out front, but as you said, we're going to ease you to it. We're going to get, if we're the NFL, we're going to go to 17. We're going to let this marinate for a couple of years, and then we're going to push 18 and figure life out from there. We'll let this marinate for a couple of years, and then we're going to figure out how to
the au jus of our awesomeness, and then you'll absolutely have to do it.
The au jus of our awesomeness.
Oh,
there's another T-shirt for Pipe Bomb Enterprises right there.
That is awesome. I love that.
Listen, before we close out our number one, also another headline that came across this week is Major League Baseball is going to back professional women's softball. Athletes Unlimited Softball will begin. 10 teams will start up this summer. So women's softball expanding with the help of Major League Baseball. Don't forget, you want to talk and text line us here at the station. You got to say happy birthday, Akeem. Happy birthday to you, Akeem, as we make our way through the end of our number one. When we come back, we're talking Brewers, the Women's U.S. Open just up the road at Erin Hills. We'll get into the summer of Giannis. And as always, we close things up with the Book of Pipe Bomb. All of that coming up. Wisconsin Sports Sunday right here on The Game.
I'm Monica Kessler.
Monica makes sure that everything at Kessler's is worthy of a lifetime warranty.
The quality of your ring is incredibly important when it comes to diamond setting, ring sizing, and repairs.
Monica has been part of Kessler's since she was 6 years old.
Let me tell you how to judge the quality of the jewelry you're buying.
It's easier than you think.
All you have to do is read the warranty.
Most stores offer a 5-year warranty, but Kessler's offers a lifetime warranty, the strongest in the world.
We can do it because we put more gold in your jewelry.
When a jeweler wants to make a bigger profit, they put less gold into the jewelry. This makes it thinner and easier to break.
Theirs might look like ours at first glance, but Kessler's jewelry is made not to break, and that takes more gold.
We give you a lifetime warranty because our jewelry is made to last forever, just like your love.
Gold is more than $2,000 an ounce.
Kessler's gives you more gold, a lot more gold.
To the location of the Kessler's nearest you, go to KesslersDiamonds.com.
At Hazelden Betty Ford, treating mental health isn't just about breaking old patterns. It's about braving new ones. As the leader in alcohol and drug treatment for 75 years, we know caring for addiction, anxiety, depression, and trauma goes hand in hand. We're here for you with new tools when life breaks down at our new clinic in Hudson. Discover your path to better mental health at hazeldenbettyford.org/Hudson. Sponsored by Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation.
All right, team, listen up. Merle the Squirrel's here to tell you why Capitals duct cleaning is a game changer.
What did he say?
He said, if you haven't cleaned your ducts in 5 years, you're breathing in all kinds of junk. And unlike those companies who use glorified shop vacs, we use high-powered trucks to clean your ducts the right way.
Yeah, makes sense. Cleaner ducts, cleaner air, healthier home.
Exactly.
Schedule your duct cleaning today and save $200. That's right, save $200.
Call CapitalCares.com.
Serving my country required sacrifice that changed my life forever. I remember the day I came home. Because of my injuries, this house wasn't right for me anymore. I remember the narrow doorways, the small bathrooms, the shelves out of reach when in my wheelchair. Every day was full of obstacles. I felt trapped. I remember a better day, the day my family received a specially adapted custom home from Homes for Our Troops. That day changed everything. Now we have a safe and accessible home to enjoy the freedom I fought for. This place, our home, is exactly what we needed to rebuild our lives.
Homes for Our Troops builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans and enables them to rebuild their lives. Join our mission at hfotusa.org.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Well, Hims can help. Through Hims.com, you can get a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. It all starts with an online intake form. Get started at hims.com/joy. And from there, a medical provider licensed in your state will determine if ED treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs with options up to 95% less than the brand names. Millions of men experience ED, but Hims can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com/JOY.
Milwaukee's most listened to sports station and heard on the iHeart app by fans everywhere. This is WRNW-FM Milwaukee, 97.3 The Game. Welcome to Wisconsin Sports Sunday. If it's happening here, these guys are talking about it.
Who are you guys?
Don Wachilis.
That's right.
The Professor Dan Underberg.
What if circumstances magnified one of them in size and strength?
And the Polish pipe bomb Jeff Orlowski.
How's the headbanging coming?
Welcome to Wisconsin Sports Sunday.
All right, welcome back in hour number 2 of Wisconsin Sports Sunday here on The Game. We're going to get into some Brewer baseball here as, my goodness, yesterday was something to behold. They went off yesterday offensively, and it was wonderful to see. We'll talk about that. The U.S. Women's Open underway. The leaders will tee off here in a couple of hours over at Erin Hills. We'll get into some U.S. Open talk, also talk about the summer of Giannis and some NBA chatter as we get set now for the championship to be underway coming up on Thursday between OKC and now the Indiana Pacers. And again, we'll close things up with the book of Pipe Bomb. Again, we're celebrating Akeem's birthday. So if you want to hit us up on the NicoletLaw.com talk and text line, make sure you say happy birthday to Akeem before you go ahead and put whatever comment you want to put in there, respond to whatever it is that we're talking about. A shout out to Elizabeth in Milwaukee, the Money Train hit us up. All these people hitting us up now saying happy birthday to Akeem. So happy birthday, kiddo. Hope you're having a great Sunday. So let's get into some Brewer baseball talk. Pipe Bomb, yesterday you and the crew were over at Potawatomi to do the post-game show. It had to be a bit of a relief, a little bit of jubilation, considering how this baseball team has played up until really this week. all of a sudden this week, we're starting to see this Brewer team play in a fashion that we had hoped going into the season. So sitting out there yesterday had to be not only joyous because you're at Potawatomi, for goodness sakes, you know what I mean? But the fact that the Brewers just annihilated the Phillies and have already wrapped up the series, which was a road series, Jeff, that I think many people had question marks, kind of like the oh no, because it's the Phillies.
Yeah, Phillies came in best record in the National League, one game off from the Tigers for best record in all of baseball, and they catch 2 fat L's to the hands of the beloved here.
Yeah.
So obviously very good to see. Now, the offense is coming around, and it's weird because it all kind of started about 7 to 10 days ago when the bottom of the order were the ones that actually started hitting, because Rhys Hoskins was hot for a little bit. And then the bottom of the order got going. Then Rhys kind of cooled. And then all of a sudden, Christian Yelich goes on an absolute tear. Churrio's hitting like crazy. Terang's doing what he does. Same thing with Frelick. Multiple hits pretty much every day. It's absolutely amazing. And they're finally starting to show some of their power. So hopefully I can stop having people, oh my God, do we miss Willie Adames? Like, no, Willie sucks. Look at his numbers in San Francisco. You don't need a cheerleader in a clubhouse for that much money. That money's better spent on actual baseball players. So, this is what we've been waiting for. Pitching staff has been, absolutely phenomenal. And then, you had the move today. So, Quintana, he will start today. And Tyler Alexander, who gave up 5 runs in garbage time yesterday, that's neither here nor there, but he got DFA'd. The Brewers were able to sit there when they DFA'd Big Joel Payamps. He cleared waivers and then accepted his assignment back to Nashville, so he's still with the organization. And Brewers are rolling the dice that Alexander, who's we affectionately call TNA on the post-game show, that TNA, will clear waivers as well. But hopefully he uses this as a learning experience. Alexander was okay. Was he the worst? Of course not. Was he great? No. But hopefully he's able to sit there, work on his game, and stay in the organization and come back. But you got to shave off that mustache, kid. It looks terrible.
What is it with professional athletes? They it becomes like almost a fraternity type thing down in the minors. This is what we're all going to do. This is the haircut we're going to do. This is what we're going to make sure we have a beard or a mustache, whatever the case may be.
The mullet's coming back.
Mullet's coming back. Yeah, all of those wonderful things are reappearing. But to Jeff's point, Dan, the pitching staff, where we keep waiting now for the big guns to come back off the DL, what Murph has done with this pitching staff in what I'll say a Band-Aid type of a rotation, with the exception of Willie Peralta, who has been the mainstay. I didn't necessarily think Willie Peralta was going to be the guy to really be your number one, but he has certainly held the title, so to speak, with the way the pitching staff has been. I think it's been miraculous to look at a group that is now 3 games above 500 with a starting rotation that has been all over the place. Yeah, a rotation that's been all over the place. And, I've been back and forth on the spectrum with Willie Peralta because of everything. He's outstanding one game, and then the next game, you're not quite sure what happened to his arm or what happened to his location. And so going into the season, kind of a de facto number one, I thought, oh, okay. Because I still don't know that I would put him as a number one traditionally. I'd put him at a maybe a 2, more likely a 3, and feel really, really good about that and put that there. But you can't deny the way that he has kept this team competitive. When he's been on the mound, he's been sharp. He's been concise. He's given the Brewers a chance to win. And really, that's what you're asking out of your starting pitcher for 5 to 6 innings.
Yeah, it is. He has done that. And, Freddie's got the stuff to be a legit number one starter. with the exception of he always has a 30-pitch inning.
Yeah.
So
right.
That's true.
You know, so he's never able to get out of the 4th or the 5th because he wastes so many damn pitches. There's so many times he gets ahead of the hitter 0-2, and then all of a sudden it turns into a 9-pitch at bat, and the guy either walks or singles.
Mm-hmm.
Stop playing with your food, throw the damn ball, and let's get out of the inning here so you're able to go deeper and save the bullpen. You know, the Brewers have built themselves on pitching and defense, which is great.
Yeah.
Start pitching to contact. Not every pitch has to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Let the other guys hit it because you've got great defenders behind you that can, more times than not, make the play, and you get out of the inning and you save your arm.
Not only with the fact that you've got those great defenders, you've got scouting reports where you know where you can place the baseball within the strike zone where these guys struggle, right? And it's not necessarily always, Dan, you got to make the perfect pitch. You've got to hit certain zones, and these guys will either pop up, ground out. I mean, it's part of baseball. You know, we always say if you fail 70% of the time at the major league level, offensively, you're a Hall of Fame caliber player. So allow that defense to do what they need to do. And I'm sure it's a lecture college coaches give their pitching staff, high school coaches give their pitching staff. You've got defenders. You don't have to do it by yourself. So you don't end up in a situation like Willie does from time to time where he has, as Jeff noted, those 30-pitch innings, which don't allow him the longevity that I'm sure Murph would love, because now I got to go to the bullpen and we end up wearing ourselves a little thin.
Yeah, but I'm going to go back to Brewers offense a little bit though. It's so if you're on that pitching rotation, you're probably, you're on the team, you're working with the team, but you're feeling like you have to do a little bit more for the first couple months of the season. You feel like you got to get there. If Milwaukee can continue to do what it did last year, base hits, small ball, speed, extend the inning, give him that chance, then I think you go back to exactly, what you're saying, Pipe Bomb, pitch for contact, give yourself a little bit of freedom to do that. You're not going to convince me that somewhere in the back of their head, at least for a month, there are pitchers going, what the hell? I've got to be perfect. Did they say it? Probably not. But somewhere in their psyche was like, I got to make sure that I get this right, which led to some of the challenges.
Yeah, when you're sitting there and, when the offense isn't producing, now all of a sudden you want to sit there and throw all the weight on your shoulders. Yeah. We all know that Freddie is an amazing competitor. He wants nothing else than to go out on that mound every 5 days and just mow down the other team. So you love that. What the best thing about Freddie for me is his availability. The dude he's a stud. He is out there. He doesn't get hurt, which is amazing considering the complete rash of injuries that decimated the rotation and the pitching staff in general this season. So I love Freddie's ability. I love his availability, but you just got to be more efficient, man, because these 40-pitch innings are killing you.
I think what really gets Brewer fans at some points, and I'm sure it's got to drive those within the organization nuts, are people like myself who live and die on every game, and it's the ups and downs. It's we're headed to the World Series. Oh my God, blow the thing up. We need to start over kind of mentality. And we're seeing Chourio now, Jeff, kind of gone through what I'll say might be a second-year slump and worked his way through to a degree, not completely back, so to speak, but we're now witnessing the Jackson Chourio that we saw at the end of last year a little more regularly than what we saw early on in the year. And that's got to be a welcome sign for everybody in and around that Brewer organization.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You can see the sweetness coming back to Honey Nut Cheerios there. And it's great to see the Brewers need his production. What I don't want to have happen, and obviously his career isn't long enough yet, but hopefully he doesn't get saddled with this slow starter,
right?
Kind of mentality here, because we saw, he was pretty bad last year for pretty much the first half of the season. And then he got going and, oh man, he was a complete game changer and was wrecking the opponents. And we saw him struggle at the beginning of this season too. Hopefully this is not a trend. We're not going to be talking about this on What's Trending, going forward in the future.
He's masterful today. What, did you get like 12 hours of sleep or something? You are masterful today.
Oh no. Oh, no. But Chourio is great, and you can see that this was coming because all of a sudden he stopped laying off that low and away cheese, the pitches that Willie Adames used to swing at. And his eye has gotten better. He's able to sit there and judge a hell of a lot better what's a strike and what's a ball, so he's not waving at pitches and missing them by 2.5 feet. So not only do you look less ridiculous to anybody who's watching the game, but obviously you give yourself one hell of a better chance to get some lumber on that ball and send it over the wall.
And don't forget, you can always listen to Pipe Bomb and the franchise Tim Allen and Hunter and everybody who's affiliated with the postgame show after each and every Brewer game right here on The Game. The one thing, Dan, as I look at this Brewer team, and the one that where I was pulling, teeth out that was driving me nuts as a fan was Caleb Durbin. And obviously, I think the franchise saw something special in Caleb, which is why they brought him up, which is why they put him into the starting lineup. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to put him into the Chourio stratosphere as far as talent goes, but I got the feeling that this Brewer team was going to be patient with Durbin and allow him to go through some of those mistakes, because I get the feeling that they think he's got the potential, the talent is there, and he's going to make those mistakes, much like Jackson Chourio did last year. I mean, how many times, were we all like raising our arms like, what is going on? But it took a couple of months to get his footing at the major league level. I'm starting to feel like the same is being given as far as grace goes to Caleb Durbin.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And, it's, in my opinion, trying to take on that hot corner as a rookie is going to be different than when you're trying to kind of bring someone up in the outfield a little bit. So he was a little bit more challenged to begin with. And then we forget, and Don and I were talking about this earlier off air, is the difference between AAA and Major League Baseball, the difference between minors and actually making it to the show, it is significant. So when you have guys come up, they're generational talents like Chourio, or you have someone like Caleb Durbin, really, really good, could be a mainstay in your franchise for years to come. You've got to expect that there's going to be some adjustment period to go through that. And we forget about it. Why? Because we've got this immediacy, right? And part of it is honestly getting built up by the franchises. Got these guys coming up. We're all excited, ready to go. We've still got to give them some space to be able to grow. We're not quite there yet. And so, yeah, we've got to give Durbin a little bit more time before we put out the judgment for his first year.
Yeah, I agree. And, Murph called him Mighty Mouse a couple days ago. When he's swinging good, he's very, very good.
Yeah.
And obviously when he's not, then it's the opposite. But the thing with him is that there's really no other option right now, which he has going for him, because Oliver Dunn down in AAA struggling like crazy, hitting 200 in Nashville here. That's no bueno. We kind of sat there and we've done this Andrew Monasterio thing a bunch, and Monasterio is a guy that sat there. If he ever would have gotten the run that they've allowed Caleb Durbin to have, and that many at-bats in a row, then I could see that we would get a clear view on who the real Monasterio is.
Mm-hmm.
But his at-bats are always so sporadic. I don't know how he's supposed to get into a rhythm and show what he's got going, because maybe if they gave him that option with Durbin hitting the way he is, maybe that puts even more pressure on Joey Ortiz to actually produce here and not be hitting 170 and like we're all supposed to be okay with it. You know what I mean?
Who's been, Jeff, because you're with this team, so to speak, day in and day out, with doing the post-game show again with you and the franchise and Hunter and Dave Gasper. Who's been the biggest surprise for you? And I know you just brought up Ortiz, but who's been that disappointment where you thought you'd see more, at least at this point, as we now hit June 1st?
Well, biggest surprise for me that so far this season is Sal Frelick. Everybody was talking about him putting on 25 pounds of muscle going into spring training and everything like that, totally reshaped his body. and has sat there, and there's been more pop in his bat lately. He's still the king of the 45-foot infield single. He's still getting a ton of those, but he is ripping the ball sometimes, and it's really great to see. He's been absolutely phenomenal. Bryce Terang as well. For him to be able to stay the most consistent hitter in this Brewers lineup on a day in, day out basis, surprised me. As far as biggest disappointments, well, Garrett Mitchell is there yet again. You can't stay healthy. Whenever he eventually does play, we can kind of see the talent that's inside of him, and just waiting for it to come in, come out on a night in, night out basis. But he can't stay on the field long enough, and it's so incredibly frustrating. And we definitely miss his defense at the very least out in the outfield. Isaac Collins has been surprising, man. Little Ike has done a hell of a job out there. His fielding is always an adventure. And, sometimes he'll make an awesome sliding catch out there in left field, and sometimes it's a complete clown show. So it's kind of a flip of a coin on what you're going to get from him defensively. But I do like his game. He's scrappy, and I think he's got a big heart. You can tell he loves playing up there. So, he's surprised me, and more for the good than for the bad so far.
Yeah, so congratulations to the Brewer organization and what they've done to this point. In certain cases, having to piecemeal some things, with regards to the pitching staff, and being patient with like the Durbins and the Churios, and allowing them, to make their way through. Because obviously when you work with somebody like that, Dan, day in and day out what they're bringing to the table, and you're just waiting for things to get shown to the public, so to speak, because you see what takes place once the lights are off, so to speak. And the Brewers have done a nice job being patient and allowing these guys to work through some of their mistakes, still stay viable at 3 games above 500.
Right.
And then hopefully now that we're into June, they can start to come into their own.
Yeah, and we've got to give a little bit of love to Matt Arnold and just put a little faith in him in terms of his decision making. By and large, he's made the right decisions for this team since he's sat in that chair and taken over. So we all want to say we're experts when we see these guys come up. We've got to turn it over to the guys that are and give them the opportunity to do what they do best. And obviously what the Brewers organization wants to do is they want to win right now. And that means in this case, you've got, guys like Isaac Collins, and you've got guys like Caleb Durbin. You got to let them play because, like you said earlier, Pipe Bomb, this is what we have. This is what we got to go with.
Yeah, and, for Caleb Durbin, we sat there and gave him a whole lot of love here so far. But at the end of the day, he's still hitting 220.
Sure.
Yep.
So, yes, he's been on an absolute tear as of late, but your average still sucks. The good thing is that third base has been such a black hole for this organization for so long that all of a sudden we see 220 and a short little dude who's sitting there and, actually rocking doubles, and we're, getting at least some production out of that spot. And everybody in Milwaukee is celebrating him like he's the second coming. And I hope he is. But, it is one of those cursed positions that the Brewers, for whatever reason, haven't been able to figure out for so damn long. Hopefully Mighty Mouse turns into the answer over at the hot corner.
All right. In a second here, Pipe Bomb, because my screen is all jacked up, I'm going to have you read a couple of things on the talk and text line that I know have come our way. Just a quick reminder that the Brewers go for the sweep against the Phillies this afternoon. Once the game is done, make sure you get it right back here to the game as Pipe Bomb, the franchise, Tim Allen, Hunter, Dave Gasper, they'll all be on hand to talk about today's game and get you ready for the upcoming week when it comes to Brewer baseball. So, Mr. Pipe Bomb, what do we got on the NicolaLaw.com talking text line?
Oh, yeah, coming in fast and furious. You guys are amazing. Tommy in Dallas says, quit wasting your first pitch. So far out there's no way anybody's swinging at talking about Freddie. You got to make it somewhat enticing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. unnamed in the 608 says we got to stop calling Freddie Peralta.
He's right. Yeah, sorry about that.
That was me too. I did too.
I heard myself saying like,
thank
son
you.
of a gun.
Thank you for the correction. My bad. That's on me. That's on me.
Sheila in Milwaukee said fastball Freddie became full count Freddie. Yes, he did. Way too many wasted pitches there. A bunch of happy birthday Akeem's coming in.
Awesome.
So yeah, you guys just continue to impress, and you guys are all smarter than me. So I'm glad you got good careers doing something else besides radio.
I am the big tookus today because I did say Willie Peralta more than once, but I led you to the water, and you went ahead and took a drink, and that was all it took. All right, let's get to a break.
Freddie.
Oh yes, Freddie Peralta. I'll be driving home today. Freddie Peralta. All right. When we come back after the break, the U.S. Open, the Women's U.S. Open is taking place at Erin Hills. We'll take a look at the leaderboard and preview, today's action. We'll also get into some NBA talk. And again, as we close up shop this week, it's always fun to sit back and listen to the Book of Pipe Bomb. All of that coming up when we come back after the break. It's Wisconsin Sports Sunday right here on The Game.
Season is still a couple of months away, but it's never too early to start thinking pigskin. Join us Sunday at noon as we kick off another summer of Packers Pride, the most important games in the history of pro football's most storied franchise. This week, we go back to when the bar was first raised.
Now he's going to the end zone. There's a man. He's wide open. Touchdown. It is caught by the wide open, and it is Kittredge Taylor.
The birth of the Gunslingers, Sunday at noon on your home for Packers football, 97.3 The Game.
The city.
Las Vegas.
Vegas, make some noise!
The event.
Our legendary iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Presented by Capital One.
Live. Welcome. One stage.
2 nights. The biggest stars in music return this September.
To make history.
The world's biggest artists are taking this stage.
Stream live only on Hulu.
I said, woo!
Listen right here as the star-studded lineup is revealed.
Tuesday morning.
At 7.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. When dining out or shopping at the grocery store, ask for sustainable seafood. By choosing sustainable seafood, you can help reduce overfishing, bycatch, loss of top predators, illegal fishing, and other harmful environmental impacts. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
At Hazelden Betty Ford, treating mental health isn't just about breaking old patterns. It's about braving new ones. As the leader in alcohol and drug treatment for 75 years, we know caring for addiction, anxiety, depression, and trauma goes hand in hand. We're here for you with new tools when life breaks down. Discover your path to better mental health at hazeldenbettyford.org/Wisconsin. Sponsored by Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation.
ACI accredited NARI member, A+ BBB rating, dwelling contractor certified, fully insured and bonded, licensed in Wauwatosa, Milwaukee, and Wisconsin for 25 years, standing behind the concrete Wisconsin businesses and residents stand on. DornbrookConstruction.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to Bundle Deal Days at AutoZone. Well, I do need a bundle of things. When you bundle, you save. Do I save if I bundle oil with an oil filter? Save up to $12 on that bundle. What about brake pads and rotors? Bundle those and the brake pads are free. Can't save more than free. You can save on hundreds of deals during Bundle Deal Days. Ends June 2nd at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply. Duralast brake pads only.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Nia.
Hi, Nia. It's Jennifer. Did you know that Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, I work here.
Okay. I was just double checking. Get it?
Because Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, you get me, Nia.
You could say that I double get you.
I guess we've taken it too far.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
The Fox 6 weather experts are presented by AdventKnows.com.
Skies will be sunny today with wildfire smoke visible in the sky. Temperatures will warm to the 70s in the inland areas and 60s lakeside. Warmer temperatures in the 80s to start the week off. Then rain returns with cooler temperatures following. I'm Fox 6 meteorologist Holly Baker.
This report is sponsored by Rapid Radios.
Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. A great alternative to a mobile phone for your kids. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com and you'll get 60% off, free UPS shipping. Add code radio and get an extra 5% off.
97.3 The Game on Instagram. Exclusive coverage of your favorite teams. Exclusive videos from your favorite game personalities.
I am a follower.
Content you can't get anywhere else. 97.3 The Game on Instagram.
Yo, Fife, you remember that routine that we used to make spiffy like Mr. Clean?
A tidbit, a smidgen. I don't get the message, so you got to run the pitch.
You're on point, Fife.
All the time, Tip.
You're on point, Fife.
All the time, Tip.
You're on point, Fife.
All the time, Tip.
So then grab the microphone and let your words rip.
All right, welcome back in Wisconsin Sports Sunday right here on The Game. We'll get into some golf talk here in a moment. Also, with regards to the NBA championship, we always bring in what we term now the summer of Giannis, with all of the ridiculousness that gets put out on social media and other platforms about potential trades and what will take place. And Giannis ain't going nowhere. I'll lay on the tarmac. I won't let that plane take off. I will be the one laying there getting federally taken into custody because I won't let a plane take. He's not going anywhere. We're not going to allow
It's a
that.
hell of a promotion for the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
and then
thank you for taking one for the team. Yeah.
Taking one for the team. That'll be the t-shirt I'm wearing when I do it. And then also, as we always do, we'll talk about the Puck. The Puck? What is a Puck? The Book of Pipe Bomb, he says 5 times. I need more Diet Dew. That's the problem.
The Diet Dew.
That's what we need more of. So
all right,
when we
game on,
let's talk some golf here. But before we get into the U.S. Women's Open, let's pose this question. We got to put it out on social media, all right? Because we've got an event happening with the station. It's Caddy Day 6 that's coming up Thursday, July 24th. It's part of Zabin and Butch and the morning crew there putting on Caddy Day out at Washington County, the golf course, which is one of the best. As far as a public golf course goes in the state of Wisconsin, Washington County is the best. Now, where I laugh is it says, come golf with us and other on-air talent. Now,
keyword talent.
Yeah, thank you. That's where I was going. Is this where we get excused from participation because yes, we are on air, but we're not considered talented and therefore we won't? Or is it the fact that Zabe and Butch don't even know this show exists on a Sunday?
Well, remember one segment ago we couldn't get our Peraltas right.
That's true.
That's
true.
There might be a reason. It might be the former.
That's what's going to happen, right? We're going to get called in and go, guys, we were going to invite you, and then they're going to play the clip of Willie and Freddie, and then we're done. We're done. All right, we just thought we'd throw that out there. Let's talk about the 80th Women's U.S. Open that is taking place right now at Erin Hills. Many of the leaders won't tee off until, we'll say 12:30-ish. As the leaderboard will begin play. We've got others on the course right now. But it has been one visually, which has been spectacular, Dan, to watch the coverage provided by NBC and to see all of the different things that Erin Hills offers as far as a golf course goes. That is not an easy place to play. When you're looking at some of those where the ball's hitting the green and then rolling off, the back, the right, the left, whatever the case may be, because of the elevation and the contours that are woven into the design, and seeing where the ball ends up, there'd be some club throwing if I were out there. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'll respect anybody that can play Erin Hills and play it well, or just the game in general. They can do that well. What Erin Hills brings, like you said, Don, is just that architecture, and it gives you visages that you just don't get from other courses. The way they built in kind of that Irish style links concept to that. But credit to the golfers that are out there right now. You're shooting 7 under if you're at the leaderboard and doing that on day 4 of the tournament. And it's a tight leaderboard. We've got 5 or 6 people within 2 shots of the lead.
Absolutely.
Today's going to be a good day to watch golf and see who comes away with a championship.
Everybody is kind of, I shouldn't say everybody, you always will get some that go, I'm not the one rooting for her, but the Nelly Cordas of the world who, yesterday her front 9 was a struggle, picked up some strokes again on the back 9 to put herself right now sitting at number 6. She'll tee off at 12:48, but the U.S. Open has been one of those majors that has eluded Nelly, and I think there are a number of golf fans out there that are really hoping she can make a Sunday run at a potential U.S. Open championship.
Yeah, and hopefully she has the stick to kind of cut off some of those shots that she needs. What Erin Hills does is it tempts you to play its course. It wants you to hit long, and it's because it is an exceptionally long course in terms of total yardage. And so, do you stay within yourself? Do you play the game that you have? Which might, back it off a little bit, or do you take those risks? And you probably do. You're playing for a U.S. Open championship and try to hit longer to kind of shave off some strokes.
Well, and especially as the day winds down and you're looking at the leaderboard and you know how many strokes you got to make up, you tend to do some things that you normally wouldn't, let's say on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. And then that's what makes the final round even more interesting, because once in a while, those I'll call them crazy shots actually work.
Yep.
They don't become disastrous, and that's what makes golf entertaining. Maya Stark is in the lead, as Dan was saying, at 7 under. Her and Julia Lopez Ramirez will tee off at 110. Julia sitting at -6. So again, Erin Hills, the host of today's U.S. Open. It's amazing, Dan, to think that, Wisconsin is a hotbed of golf.
Absolutely.
When you think about Erin Hills and obviously Whistling Straits, then you get what's in and around Kohler. You talk about the Sands. You talk about some of the courses in and around the Dells. I mean, our state is populated with some of the best golfing you'll find anywhere. Unfortunately, it's June 1st and we're still waiting for summer.
Yeah, that's true. And we can't forget about Century World
Yeah,
and doing all
there
that.
you
I
go.
mean, but Wisconsin is if you're not a golfer, you don't understand, but Wisconsin is a known golf destination. You've got 3 courses all within, 90 minutes of each other. Then you go a little bit further north, go to Wisconsin Rapids, like I said, go to the Sands. Those that are into the game, those are the kind of the aficionados, know that golf is the destination for Wisconsin, or Wisconsin is a golf destination, and they want to be a part of that. It's a great long weekend to have that opportunity to play here.
Yeah, and I don't think that enough of a deal was made with the PGA Tour sitting there and adjusting their schedule, which basically rules out the state of Wisconsin for future majors, moving up the PGA Championship. Right. And all that kind of garbage. I think that it doesn't bode well for our state getting another major, which is a damn shame. Like you listed a bunch of the great courses around. There's so many of them, and it's just sad. It was great that Whistling Straits got the Ryder Cup, which is my favorite event out of all the years. I love the Ryder Cup. I love match play in general. But I think that, there's so much to offer here. And my words are confused because you mentioned Nelly Corda's back 9, and I've been thinking about that ever since you said it. I like her back 9.
Jeffrey.
I'm sorry.
Jeffrey.
Did I say that out loud?
Yes, you did. To Jeff's point, Dan, with the PGA Championship and all of that, when Herb Kohler unfortunately passed, we lost the player that lied within this state who had the pull to bring in a Ryder Cup, a PGA Championship. Now we have to wait and see who's going to replicate that, who's going to take his place with, again, the courses that we have in and around this state, who can be that player who can pull the rest of, in this case, we'll say the PGA, back into the fold and get another major within our confines.
Well, you look at that, and we were talking earlier about the importance for these major events to pull in the average fan, people that want to see it. So they want to see major names that they recognize, those top 10 golfers. But then again, it's got to be visually appealing. And that's what these 2 courses that we're used to, Erin Hills and Whistling Straits, have. There are times when you look at Whistling Straits, you question whether or not you're looking at something in the States. right on Lake Michigan. It doesn't really look like a course you would find, which is its appeal to have that. So there's got to be that point within the PGA and the other golf governing bodies when they say, okay, number one, these events have been well attended. Okay. They're making money at the gate. They're doing just fine. Wisconsin has supported professional golf at a very high level. And number two, again, finding that time in the year where you can leverage that, where you can have the PGA or really truthfully getting the US Open on the rotation through the upper Midwest. And so it's not an occasional every 7 years or something like that, but really you're rewarding the golf fans in the Midwest with a great destination.
All right. Before we get to basketball, our guy Ken hit us up on the NicoletLaw.com talking text line and told us, we could be seeing a major at Glacier Woods. If you ever want to see the most interesting par 5, it's a U.
Okay.
It's an actual U. And there's no way to cheat it. Like it's the craziest par 5 you will ever see, the most unfair par 5 you will ever see. So yeah, thanks,
Mike
Ken.
Zalecki is out there going challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. I got a bag full of range balls that I'm going to try and hit over these pines, and we'll see what happens. All right, let's get into some basketball because, again, we're getting ready for the NBA championship. But us here on our fine program have declared it the summer of Giannis.
I proclaim this the summer of Giannis!
And so week in and week out, what do we get? We get proposed trades, right? That's all we're seeing. And I sincerely, from a fan, and I would say hopefully a perspective that is a bit grounded, I really don't think Giannis is going anywhere. But again, we constantly hear about here's this trade, here's that trade. Here's a trade that popped up yesterday. Ready for this one?
Love the eyes on this one.
Giannis and AJ Green to Memphis. The Bucks received Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark, Zach Edey, Jackson, and a 2027 first-round pick and a 2031 first-round pick. We're fine in first-round picks once we get to the 2030s. I don't need your 2031 first-round pick. I don't need Zach Edey lumbering up and down the floor.
Yeah, you read my mind on that one.
Jaren Jackson, nice player. He's not Giannis. Like, the trades that get proposed are so ridiculous on what we would get in return. And not only are they ridiculous, I don't think anybody takes into account the salary cap implications that have to be considered when making a trade within the NBA. If Giannis were going to be traded, we're looking at least 4 teams, I think, that would have to be in the mix to make things work financially. This is not sit at the bar. Okay, I'll buy you a beer if you give me so-and-so and so-and-so, and this will take place. This is not fantasy sports. Besides, Giannis ain't going nowhere. He's not. I refuse to believe Giannis is going anywhere, Dan.
This would be, so much easier for the NBA if Giannis was willing to go somewhere. It's just he doesn't want to go anywhere. I'm with you on this one. I think he wants to stay in Milwaukee for this coming season. Then after this coming season, we have to do this again, and the talks are probably going to get a little bit more significant on that. And, looking at everything in terms of salary cap, yes, but the way the NBA does it, the way they have that tax on top of going over the cap, a lot of teams will still kind of ignore what the cap is and just kind of take it on anyways, because Giannis is that one player that's out there that is really right now really attractive to take on. So I don't even hear the chatter anymore. I got to be honest. It's like, okay, there's another proposal out there from somebody somewhere that says this is what a trade could be. I don't even hear.
But see, that's why you're the professor. You're smart enough to have it pop up on social media, email, whatever, and you just move on.
Yeah,
I'm dumb enough to click on it and read it.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you said that.
He was about to. I just beat you to the punch.
I'm in the camp with the professor. I put all these trade proposals in straight wife mode. The lips are moving, and I can't hear a freaking word. So, you're not going to get fair value no matter what you trade Giannis for. So what are we talking about here? You just hope that it doesn't get down to a situation where Giannis wants to get out of town.
Exactly.
It doesn't seem like that's where we're at. It doesn't. Hopefully, we never get there. But until that happens, all this crap is just wife noise.
Oh, God bless you. I tell you, more T-shirts than we could ever sit down and create are created by you on a weekly basis.
Say on the radio.
The NBA championship starts on Thursday. It'll be OKC up against the Indiana Pacers. That best of 7 again, tipping off on Thursday. I'll be honest with you. I lack the energy to be excited about this upcoming NBA playoffs. I just do. There's no reason other than maybe OKC that will draw my attention. I'm not a Pacer fan. I don't like the fact that the Pacers have been our Achilles heel that for the Bucks over the last couple of years. And I don't even have enough energy to want to turn it on and hope that OKC runs them out of the gym for a redemption purpose. But it'll be interesting nonetheless. Here's the key on this one. Are we starting to see with, let's say, the Indiana Pacers or even OKC, a switch? Now, we talked about, the running game and the passing game earlier in our show with regards to the NFL, but you don't see the big threes anymore or even the big twos. It seems as if because of the salary cap that we're seeing teams go younger, deeper, more athletic, which I think to me has got to be the selling point if you're the Bucks to Giannis. We're going to get younger, deeper, more athletic and build that around you. You still need a marquee player, don't get me wrong, but you don't see like the big three we did a few years back with, Miami when everybody joined Dwayne Wade down in Miami trying to win championships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. And I don't know if this right now is just one of those moments where it's just that 1 year thing. I think you're right. We're trending kind of away from that. Because even when we had the big three, when you had like you referenced Miami earlier, they were still losing championships too.
That's true.
They weren't wiping out everybody the way, remember 4, 5, 6, 7, all that.
Yep.
So it's the question is really now, can you extend, the success of a team that Milwaukee wanted to do, couldn't do it. They tried the big two. It really hasn't worked. And trying to find that right mix. And, I'll tell you that I do have some interest in kind of watching this. When I lose interest in the NBA, number one, when the Bucks are out, number two, quite honestly, I think the NBA playoffs are too long.
Hello.
Okay? Thank you. I remember, they started out with a 3-game series, early rounds, and then you get to a 5, and then you ultimately get to a 7 conference championships, and then, the NBA finals kind of a thing. I think they're too long, and you just lose interest over the course of the 2 months of the playoffs. That's just me.
And especially when you're in this state and you get to summer and now you're ready to roll outdoors and not necessarily be stuck in the house. One other thing that occurred yesterday as Indiana took New York out in that Game 6 matchup is that the guys on TNT said goodbye for the last time. Here's Ernie Johnson signing off one last time for the NBA on TNT.
Look, the 4 of us, as you've already heard, the 4 of us are going to be together. Our production crew is going to be together. It's going to be that same bunch. We're still going to be shooting that show in Atlanta. It's just going to air somewhere else. And so the craziness that you've seen, the nonsense and the foolishness and the top-notch basketball analysis, all of that stuff's going to be on. It's going to be on ESPN or ABC next year, not on TNT. For that, it's... we're sad, but I'm proud to say for the last time, thanks for watching us. It's the NBA on TNT.
Before we go, guys, let's give a mic drop.
I love the fact they did the mic drop on the final sign-off there. So the guys are done at TNT. They move over, as you heard Ernie Johnson say, to ESPN and to ABC. One real quick note, we were lamenting about how good Matt LePay and the other announcers are. Johnson's a Wisconsin guy. He's a toasted dude. Only the best come from our fine state.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's roll to a break because on the other side, we've got to leave room for the Book of Pipe Bomb. This is a Wisconsin Sports Sunday right here on The Game.
I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Ooh, I am for real.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with a new way to enjoy our beautiful planet. Reduce your impact on the environment this fall by packing a waste-free lunch for school or work. Avoid foods with excessive packaging. Use reusable cutlery, napkins, cups, bags, and containers, and recycle or compost any waste when possible. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
At Hazelden Betty Ford, treating mental health isn't just about breaking old patterns, it's about braving new ones. As the leader in alcohol and drug treatment for 75 years, we know caring for addiction, anxiety, depression, and trauma goes hand in hand. We're here for you with new tools when life breaks down at our new clinic in Hudson. Discover your path to better mental health at hazeldenbettyford.org/Hudson. Sponsored by Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation.
They say seeing is believing. And when you check out what's waiting for you at American Place Casino, you'll definitely believe you'll love it. From thrilling gaming to top-notch service, we're changing the game. Come play all your favorites like blackjack, craps, roulette, and the latest slots. Catch a game at the sportsbook, enjoy great restaurants, bars, and more. If you're ready for excitement, exceptional service, and an experience you'll never forget, then we'll see you soon. American Place Casino. Change the game. Must be 21 years of age or older. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling, and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER.
I can see the breath inside my house. This is how horror movies start.
First, the cold seeps in. Next thing you know, you're spooning your cat for warmth.
I tried it. He bit me.
Jason, come on, man. You need a new furnace. Don't you know that Capital is giving away the furnace when you get a new AC?
Giving as in free?
Yeah, but call Capital before this turns into the horror version of Frozen. Call Capital today and get a free furnace with a new AC.
Old-fashioned service, you can't go wrong. Call CapitalCares.com.
Managed IT support from Central Office Systems is qualified technicians.
Answering your call within 1 minute.
Grateful to support your business.
Solving any IT problem as fast as humanly possible.
Network security, network support.
CentralOfficeSystems.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to Bundle Deal Days at AutoZone. Well, I do need a bundle of things. When you bundle, you save. Do I save if I bundle oil with an oil filter? Save up to $12 on that bundle. What about brake pads and rotors? Bundle those and the brake pads are free. Can't save more than free. You can save on hundreds of deals during Bundle Deal Days. Ends June 2nd at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply. Duralast brake pads only.
For a lot of us, saving up a down payment can be the biggest barrier to buying a home. So Rocket Mortgage is lowering down payments to 1% for eligible home buyers with One Plus. Because everyone deserves their shot at the American dream. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to get a head start on your starter home.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
This Father's Day, visit Boot Barn for top quality gifts that pay tribute to the lasting heritage of the West. From handcrafted cowboy boots and American-made felt hats to durable jeans and outdoor gear, our in-store experts can guide you as you shop, assisting with boot sizing and helping you navigate the store so you can find the perfect gift. Share a piece of the American spirit with him this Father's Day. Boot Barn, unwrap the West.
I lived on a commercial salmon fishing boat in Alaska, and I genuinely think that was the first time I've ever felt myself kind of like slipping mentally. I think Alaska does weird things to people.
If you're interested in hearing anonymous callers like this tell stories from their lives, check out my podcast, Therapy Gecko. You can listen to Therapy Gecko on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Follow Therapy Gecko and start listening on the free iHeartRadio app today.
Don't postpone better sleep. Shop Mattress Firm's Memorial Day sale now. Upgrade to a premium bed from a curated selection and take your rest to the next level. Don't miss out. Visit Mattress Firm today. Get matched. Sleep at night.
Don't you know that I'm loving you?
All right, here we go. One last time in today's fine program. As we always do on a Sunday, we wrap it up with the book, A Pipe Bomb. Oh, Jeffrey.
All right, guys, graduation season is upon us, and what a ridiculous joke that is. My daughter's graduating high school. My old lady's sitting there talking about dropping $1,000 on a laptop or something stupid for it. You know, this isn't 50 years ago where kids would have to drop out of school to help out on a farm or to get a job and help pay the rent. You know, I think we're a little bit past that now. Graduating high school is not a great achievement. That is the exception, or, you know, the expectation. It's not the exception anymore. So what the hell are we doing, and why is it costing me so much damn money? That's all I got today, man.
That is
That's
one hell of a book. Right there.
unreal.
Well, so much for congratulations to all the graduates this year. After that was
And happy birthday, Akeem.
Yes.
Happy birthday,
Once
Akeem.
again, as we wrap it up, happy birthday, Akeem. Hope we didn't ruin it by any means with our stupidity for the last 2 hours, but we hope you had a great birthday weekend. All right, time for us to get up out of here. For the Professor, Dan Underberg, the Polish Pipe Bomb, Jeff Orlowski, I'm Don Wachillis. Whew, have yourself a good week. I don't know how to respond to the graduation rant. We're back at 6 and 22. Take care.
Man, that was amazing. Even if you don't have a girlfriend, they just stole her from you.
Zabe and Butch in the morning. Zabe and Butch in the morning. Is Butchie grumpy after the weekend because the Pacers won? How'd the Brewers do? Mike Heller, golf, so much more. Monday morning.